Hello and welcome, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast, and yes, we are your number one podcast to bring you stories around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness comes in between with some amazing people out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is a live stream. So if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, one other thing, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Guys, without further ado, help me welcome my next guest, Miss Allure Unique, to the show. I know you told me your name, but I like Allure. I'll just put it on out there like that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
All
much.
right. No worries. Thank you for joining me today. And so before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
All right. So my name is Kiera Clemens, but I go by the name Allure Unique, and I represent Real Struggle Shift Motivation. Allure Unique was given to me when the Lord allowed me to create this brand, and it is basically a definition of who I am as a spiritual individual.
Amazing, amazing. Now tell people where you're from.
So I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah, I'm
So,
down
yeah,
south.
yeah. I wanted everybody to know that because I told you your accent is beautiful, and I would have thought that you was from New Orleans. I
Wow.
was like, whoa, she got that Creole accent. You got to be careful with that right there, girl.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Yes, consider Geechee Gala. Like I said, yeah.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So let's talk about your journey. Tell us about who you are. Before you became Allure. Tell us about your life's journey.
So I actually have just released two of my books, which is Real Struggle Strength. Part one, Headed to the Streets Through Trials and Tribulation, and part two, From Trenches to Trendsetter, which is actually me telling short tales of my real life story. So I started off as a young girl, just to give some briefing, because if not, I'll be ruining the point of the book. but
No, no
I started off
worries.
as a young girl, AB honor roll student, always had a lot of gifting and talents, writing books since I was in elementary school, winning many awards. And then I spiraled after I lost my grandfather, and I went in the wrong direction. So I did lose my way. I started going astray. I started hanging out in the streets with the wrong individuals, picking up bad habits and so forth and so on. Just to give a little breather, yes.
Understood. That's been understood. So you and your grandfather, you guys had a pretty good relationship.
Yes, yes. My grandfather was the late Reverend Ernest Mitchell. Yes.
Okay. And let's talk about him for a little bit. What sort of man was he?
Ah, man. He was a superior man. He was a man of strength and a lot of power. Of course, you already know from him being a reverend, he was definitely a God fearing man. And he
Mhm.
was a reverend here in North Charleston, South Carolina, at one of the oldest churches founded by our forefathers, which is called St. Peter's AME Church. So, yeah, he was a great man. He ran a funeral parlor called Mitchell's Funeral Home here in downtown Charleston, and he taught us very well. You know what I mean? He taught us. I hung out with him a whole lot because I was one of his youngest grands that was actually still here in South Carolina. So I spent so much of my childhood around him, and even in the funeral home. So he was like, even though I had my dad, of course, even though my dad and my mom had separated, my dad had always been a part of my life, without a shadow of a doubt. But my grandfather was more of a father figure to me, because I was around him a little bit more. So
Nice. Because I think that's really important. I have a younger sister myself, and I watched her grow up, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, this girl is going to be a handful for somebody, But of course, like when we talk about grandparents, my grandmother was my best friend growing up. She taught me how to cook. She taught, just the basic things. And she used to always correct me on certain things, right?
yes,
So it's a funny story. One time, I got new clothes. and I go to the house. I go to grandma's house, right? Because she literally lived right down the street from where we live. And
Yeah.
I walk in there and strutting my little stuff. I was probably about maybe 10 years old or something like that. She looked at me. She said, "Boy, you think you cute?" Now I don't know. I don't, that's how you only have one answer to this, but it's always going to be the wrong answer, right?
Right, right.
I remember saying, "No, Grandma, I'm not cute. I'm handsome."
I
So,
know that's right.
so you conceded now, huh? So you just think you just all of that and stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, "No, Grandma, but if I would have said I was cute, you would have said something different." So I figured, there was never a right answer.
Right, right, right.
you know. But it's nothing like that. Those grandparents love, man, because I always looked at my grandmother and my grandfather. They were always a safe place for me, right? They were always a safe place. I could always go to grandma's house when mom was like, "I'm gonna whoop your butt." I just ran down to grandma's house because I knew she wasn't gonna let mama whoop me. it wasn't the same. Was it the same, or
Right. Right. And it was, I'm gonna be honest, we spent a whole lot of time at my grandmother and my grandfather's house. That was the fun house. That was the place where you can go to the candy store, lady. That was the place where you can get
hmm
down and dirty. You know what I mean? But see, then we didn't have social media and stuff like that. So we made our own
right,
games.
right.
We played hide and seek. We played a game we used to call get off your porch, where we would get the broom, and if one of the other cousins came up on the porch, we had to sweep them off. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we did a lot of things. Freeze tag. It was always a great time, and especially on Friday nights when my grandma we would have a seafood night every single Friday, and my grandma would literally make the fries from scratch. I'll never forget watching her sit at that table and peel those potatoes and really, literally make homemade French
Mm.
fries. I don't even think a lot of people even do that nowadays.
They don't. They
Yeah.
don't. And girl, I'm just like you, right? Like I have a lot of old traditions, from cooking and things like that. Just from because I was raised up around my great grandmother, right,
Right.
and my grandmother, and every holiday you talk about homemade pies. I mean, making mashed potatoes from scratch. You gotta get down and dirty up
Yeah.
there, watching them clean
Yeah.
collard greens and stuff like that. So that's how I learned how to cook because watching my aunties, they were a little bit older. Someone was around the same age as me, as well as with my mom. My mom was 20 years older than me, and so watching all of them in the kitchen. Oh my God! Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't
oh
see that nowadays. You don't see
no,
that
you don't.
nowadays. People might make a little bit of I don't even think they make big potato mashed potatoes by scratch, but they might make a baked potato. They might bake a baked potato, but I don't think they even make mashed potatoes from scratch anymore. But yeah, we definitely got to
No,
take it back to those kind of days.
we got to, because it
Yeah.
was it was a time when we were healthier, right? But
Yeah.
we have to be able to get outside too. Like you said something, being outside. We didn't have social media. We were all over the place, right? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Our parents was like, we don't want to see you till the street lights come on. And just don't, unless you got a broken bone, don't come home. And even if you
Yeah.
got a broken bone, don't go home, right? You know, you need to look. I'm pretty sure we got stories running around the creek and going down to the ocean and everything else, right? That's how we learned how to pretty much survive in the world, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
fend for yourself.
That's
So
right.
now, you know, which leads me to this question: do you think? Well, no. Let me rephrase it. How did the loss of your grandfather affect the decisions that you made leading into you starting to hang out into the streets?
I'm gonna be honest. And I didn't figure this out until many years later. Let me say that because when my grandfather, excuse me, passed away, I was in fifth grade.
Mm,
So basically, going into my middle school year, I was a broken vessel, and I didn't even know it. What happened was once I entered into the middle school year, I saw these children, and they were different. they were different. They were wearing weave. They were doing this. And I talk about this again in the book. And I basically, I started wanting to follow the trend. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
wasn't comfortable in my skin at that point in time, not realizing again that I was literally broken. You know what I mean? That little girl, that humble, special, unique, smart little girl was losing her way. You know what I mean? I was losing my way. And also my mom had been going through a depression at that time, and we consider this, well, we say this here, but I'm old people children. So my mom was older, and like I said, my mom and my dad had already part ways, so it was really just me and her most of the time, even though I had an older sister. But my older sister is 8 years older than me, so of course she was doing her own thing, so it was always just me and her. And literally she had a real tight grip on me, and I broke that grip when I lost my way as well. You know what I mean? I started getting in trouble in school. Like I said, I started um lose I started failing in my grades because I wasn't really focusing on the work. It wasn't that I couldn't do the work. I just wasn't focusing. I was more disruptive at that time. Like I said,
mhm,
I was broken. It broke my heart. It literally broke my heart, and it actually broke me as well. So
mhm. That is powerful and deep in the same sense because I can only imagine, going out into the world and feeling like a part of you is missing, and I can relate to what you just said because, you know, when my grandmother, I think that's when, no, mine's actually started a little bit earlier than that, at 6, but when my grandmother passed away is when I really started being very violent, right?
right,
So I was that guy in the streets that you did not want to see,
yeah,
unless
yeah,
unless we was cool or something. But even then, I was unpredictable. I was like,
yeah.
I used to sit around and look at people and go, you know what? I'm about to punch him in his mouth just because.
Wow,
And
Jesus
these would be my
Christ,
older dudes, right? These would be like the older homies out there and stuff. Because
Lord
I
have
knew, like,
mercy.
well, like sometimes, like for me, it was a rite of passage, right? I knew that if I could hang with them in a street fight, that I was going to fare pretty well,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Especially
yeah.
as a younger dude, man. Especially as a younger dude growing up in the streets, I was like, man, and I would look at
They
my
gonna
biggest
respect you.
homies, and
Yeah, they gonna
yeah,
respect you.
it wasn't even a matter of respect because they knew what I was doing, right? And I wasn't afraid of anything. Like the fear of death was not there. And so I would
Wow.
just look at them and just go, like I would see, because I think at that time, well, I've been 6'4" since I was 14 years old. But these dudes, at an early age, these dudes was bigger than me. And I just look at them and go, mm. And they turn
Wow.
around, boy. And we just started throwing down. We just started throwing down, you
Wow.
know. And afterwards, they were like, man, he's gonna be hell, man. And
Yeah.
then I got better at doing it, right? I got really good at doing it.
Wow.
After a while, I was
Jesus.
like, yeah, I'm gonna go have to fight some other people, which led me down the path of just destruction.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What was some
For
of your
real.
journeys like? What was some of your
Jesus.
journeys out being out there in the streets with those individuals? Because I know for me, I started drinking, I started smoking weed,
Yeah.
um,
Same here.
selling
Same here.
drugs,
Yeah.
you know, what you?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I can't even tell a lie. Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, I talk about all of this. Yes. Selling drugs, doing drugs, running with the I was always of course I like to always look nice as a female, but I used to run
Mm,
with the guys. So you know what I mean? Yeah, so I used to hang with more guys than I did with girls at a point in time, you know what I mean? And that's how I learned how to hustle. You know what I mean? That's how I learned how to hustle. But um and I'm gonna be honest, it led me also, that continued to lead me down a dark road because that's how I caught my first charge. I caught
mm.
my first charge riding with the wrong person. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I almost got 10 years in jail. So, you
Ooh,
know what I mean? Like, yeah, for trafficking cocaine. You know what I mean? So, it was a hard way for me, like I said, but it was also what I want people to know is it was the choices that I made that put me in these
Right. Yeah.
predicaments. You understand? Because if I was knowing how to govern myself accordingly, if I was knowing how to pick and choose, and if I had that proper discernment then that I even have as of today, I wouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been there. But unfortunately, we live to learn, and I want to be transparent right now. Now, it's plenty days I look back at myself and I say, God, like I could have been so far ahead in my life. There's no telling where I would have been at if I didn't make those bad choices. And and sometimes it has made me weep. It has made me cry. It has made me feel doubt. It has made me feel insecurity. And I look back and the Holy Spirit always hit me and let me know, like, you had to go through that in order for you to be the individual that you are today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You had to go through that. If you didn't go through that, you think you would have this brand? You think this brand would be able to be made for you to help so many souls? You understand that whether they tell me or not, I know that it does. I know I just put it out there and I just let it do what it does. You know what I mean? But I've had plenty testimonials and plenty people write me from all over the world to let me know how my motivation has inspired their lives. And I was ashamed of myself as well. By now, as I continue to grow in the spiritual realm, this is what allows me to even come, like how you're allowing me to grace this platform and to be able to talk in my transparency to let people know, because I'm not ashamed anymore.
I can dig that. I could definitely dig that, right? And I want to touch on something that you said and probably just talk about it a little bit because you said something really interesting. Had you not made those choices, but then realizing, after having a relationship with God, you realize that you had to go through these things. I think a lot of people don't understand the journey, right? Too many people are focused on the chaos that comes along with the journey. And I was reminded I was reminded at a low point in my life because I had to have a conversation. I was about to take my life. I was like, I don't want to do it no more.
Wow.
And the good Lord stopped me. He said, you don't
Jesus.
get to do that. And I was 2 seconds away. I was 2 seconds away, like
Jesus.
in the middle of
Oh,
nowhere. In the middle of nowhere. I drove out to the middle of the desert. And was like, this is where I'm gonna do it. I planned it out. I it's a done deal, right?
wow.
And 2 seconds away, and I'm gonna tell you how strange it was because I drove out here. I'm in the middle of nowhere,
Jesus.
and it's pitch black. It's just me, the mountain, the cactus, and the night sky.
Wow.
I said, all right, sat there, stepped outside my vehicle, and was about ready to pull the trigger, and I could have sworn that somebody had followed me out there because they called my name. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm gonna give you a testimony that's similar to yours, right? So
Jesus.
when it did, I threw the gun in the front part of the vehicle. And I sat there for a minute. Now, mind you, if anybody had walked up on me, I would have seen them because they would have had to drive out to where I was. He wasn't going to
Right.
drive out there.
Right. Right.
I'm in the middle of the desert,
Right.
right? I made sure of it too. But I sat there and I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So me being who I was, I just turned on the lights. I was like, maybe somebody snuck up on me.
Jeez.
Maybe somebody followed me. No, no. So I turned the lights off and I went to go grab the gun again. I said, you know what? Okay, let's just finish. It's just me, my mind playing tricks on me. That voice came back again. And it said, now that I have your attention, let me speak to you.
Woo. My Lord.
And I said, who you with? Who you supposed to be? Right? Who are you? He says, you know who I am.
Okay.
I'm the
Talk
one
to
that's
me.
been with you your whole
Jesus.
entire life. I said, hold on, man. What you talking about? You've been with me my whole entire life. Have you not seen my life?
What?
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like you talking to me like you know me or something. He goes, yeah, I know everything about you. I said, well, then explain my life to me because I'm having a hard time, putting all this together. And so the voice said, well, ask me. I said, what was you at when I was 6 years old? When I got molested? What was you at? He goes, He goes, I was there. I said, so you let it happen to me twice? Not once, but twice? He goes, yeah, but you learned how to defend yourself, right? It didn't happen to you no more after that, right? Like you made some choices and you can and you lived your life. I said, hold on. I said, what about, being homeless as many times as I have? He goes, well, had you had been stable, I wouldn't have been able to move you around to these different places. I said, well, what about the 24 years in the game? He goes, not only did you learn how to survive in the world, but you learned who you was. You learned how you learn how to contain the monster that's inside of you,
Whew.
to become a
Testify.
good
Go
man,
ahead.
right?
Jesus.
I said, well, what about going to prison for 5 years? He's like, well, that was me protecting you because you was wild. So had I not set you down for those 5 years, you would have been dead
Jesus.
in the street. See, when I locked you up, you didn't see those dudes coming to find you. You had a lot of people ready to kill you. So I had to put you down. I had to slow you down because you wasn't listening to
Whew.
me.
Good Lord.
I said, well, I was an alcoholic for 20 years. He said, yeah, he was. He goes, but did you learn something? I said, yeah, I don't want to do it no more. He goes, good. Right? Good. Good. You don't want to do it no more. I said, well, what about all my friends that I've lost? I've lost over 400 plus friends. He said, see, that's your problem. It had nothing to do with you. I said, but I had to see him die. He goes, yeah, the experience was yours, but everything else had nothing to do with you. Had nothing to do with
My
you. That
Lord.
was a contract between them and me. So yeah, but think about it this way. You got the chance to meet him. I said, well,
Wow.
what about my parents? He said, oh, well, your mom and dad raised you. They taught you well, right? Yeah, good. The time was up. I said, well, what about my younger brother? He goes, well, your dad needed him more than he needed you. I said, well, what about my son? He goes, see, again, that's where you get a mistake. He was on loan to you, but he belonged to me. He goes, now think about it. There's so many people out here that never get the chance to do any of these things. I said, man, my life has been messed up. He says, again, you're messing up because you thought your life was about you. Girl, I said, hold on.
Jesus.
When he said that, I said, well, I guess the next question is, what am I supposed to do with this? And
Jesus
6 years
Christ.
ago, he set me on this path of becoming a men's grief coach. He said, I need you to just follow that path over there. Don't stray off. You're going to have to go through some things, but I'm going to get you where you need to be. 6 years later, I'm sitting here doing exactly what I love doing. Yeah.
My Lord.
So,
That's so
what?
deep. Oh,
But
for
yours is
Lord
too, right? But but like,
Jesus.
your story is so similar. Like everyone, like the things that you endured in order to get to where you are, to make the impact that you're making, Allure, is truly freaking amazing. And it's the testimony. And that's why I said I can relate to what you just said right there, right?
That's deep,
Because
man.
you've
Thank you.
taken everything that you've gone through to build a brand, to build a business, and to impact other people. Nothing, I say that to say this, right? Because I think a lot of people will get wrapped up into their life and not see the other side of it. Some people might even get to this point. They may not even be able to break through it. It's sitting right there. And I want people to understand that you're looking at two individuals on your screen right now that have chosen to walk to the other side.
Yes.
There were sacrifices, there was
Yes.
challenges, there was
Yes.
a lot of things that went on. I want to talk about the
Yes.
other things that went on to get you to where you are today, because one, you still have to deal with the grief that comes
Yes.
along with it. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. But also, you had to redefine who you were in order to be who you are,
Yes.
right? So
Yes,
let's
I did.
talk about the grieving process once you made the decision to kind of move away from the streets.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. It actually was the Lord who did that transition for me. It was not a choice of my own. Throughout a time when I was going through a very detrimental state and time in my life, when I was coming out of a bad situation with my ex fiance, who had me feeling like I was living a Lifetime movie, who had me a part of Victims Advocate, who had me like I was running
Mm,
for my life. You understand? Who drove me out to the woods and put a gun in my face and left me out in a whole county that I didn't have no phone, didn't have no purse, didn't have anything with me after we were
mm,
coming from a little party or something we were at on that particular night. But fast forward, again, I had got my life together for a little bit of time, and honestly, that would be the only good part that I would say that came out of that relationship. It helped me to become more mature in my age and to become
mm,
more mature as a mom because I had already had my first son when I was 17. um Throughout that time, like I said, I was still doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. I was always take care of my son, always took care of my son. That wasn't a problem, but I was still trying to hang out in the street. I was still trying to do me at the same time. And
mm,
again, like I said, fast forward, um after I came out that situation, I went back and I started picking back up bad habits again. I started doing, the Lord put me in a country like area, and some of the people I knew, some of them I didn't. But I'm gonna tell you this much: a lot of them became my family afterwards because at that time my family had, he put me. Everybody would say, "Oh, we ain't coming over there. You behind God's back," and I didn't realize that the Lord put me in this situation so that I could learn a lot. Not only did I learn how these people lived off the land and how some of them, yeah, they had money, but they didn't focus on that. What they focused on was love, unconditional love, and that was even in their community. Like if an elder per se didn't have the means to be able to get out, if they went to the grocery store, if they went to the farmers market, they would bring things back for these people. But
mm,
also, one thing that these people love to do, they love to drink, love to sit under this tree and drink. So therefore, I found myself underneath that tree almost every single day, drinking more than I had ever drunk before, even though I started drinking as a teenager. But that
mm,
wasn't really my thing. Smoking weed was my thing. You know what I mean? And also throughout that process, I picked up a habit where we would put cocaine on the weed, and we called that
mm,
boonk. So I picked that back up. This was during the time where we was coming out of recession, and I'm gonna be honest, out there in the country, they had the good drugs. They had real good drugs. So I used to start making them calls, calling people up. Hey, such and such got this. Blah blah blah. Anything that I could do to cushion. Throughout that time, I also started popping ecstasy. Well, one particular night when I got one of those pills, I was already smoking the other drugs with it, drinking, doing my thing. Went back in the house later on that night, and and the home that I lived in, I was on one side by myself. My mom and my sons were on a whole totally opposite side. I didn't do drugs directly in front of them at all, never. But if I would go in my bathroom in my bedroom, I would up that window and I would do my thing inside there, especially if they were sleeping. On this particular night, I did that after coming from outside. I went inside there and I started doing, doing more. Let me mind you that it was no limit to how much drugs
mm,
that we were doing at that time. You know what I mean? You want to keep going, you want to keep doing, you want to party to the break of dawn, that type of thing. And it was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was still up doing it. And my heart began to race. I felt like I was about to have a heart attack.
mm,
And I'm gonna be honest, I'm like, Lord, I couldn't scream. I didn't want to wake my mom or my kids up. I didn't want them to know what I was doing, you know. And I'm gonna be honest. I laid down on my bed and I proceeded to pray. And I told the Lord, I said, Lord, please, Lord. I said, I don't want them to find me in here like that. I said, if you help me, I said, Lord, you can take the taste away from me. You can take everything away from me. And mind you, I grew up in the church, but remember when I went to screen, I wasn't thinking about praying. Of course, sometimes
Mm.
I would. We always a say little thing and talk to the Lord occasionally, but I wasn't a deep prayer at that time. I didn't go into deep prayings, praying sessions at that time. But on this particular night, I called out to the Lord, and I just held my chest, and I tried to remain as calm as possible, and I just asked him, like, please, Lord, help me, save me. I don't want my kids, like I said, and my mom, them to find me here like this. Like, just please help me. And he did. He did. When I woke up the next morning, I woke up with almost like a faint memory. I did not really know what had happened to me. I knew that had happened, but I didn't know what happened after that. I guess he put me to sleep. You know what I mean? He put me to sleep after I went into that prayer or whatever. Not, you know what I mean? I really don't know what happened after I began to pray. You know what I mean? But I can tell you that I woke up well. And let me tell you, I definitely did. I left them. I didn't touch them pills again anymore after that. Those ecstasy pills, I did not touch them, but I still did the other stuff. You see what I'm saying? I still did the other stuff now, and I
It's
still
a
went.
transition,
You know
man.
what I mean? I still did the other stuff. I can't lie about this, but basically, but gradually, he did exactly what I asked him. And let me tell you this much: when he finally took the taste of me, the taste away from me, excuse me, this was after I had friends who had got sold fentanyl and who OD'd.
Mm.
You understand it? And I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was still doing it and this was happening to them, I was still talking to them. I was like, Lord, I please make sure I don't go buy nothing like that. I don't get it from the wrong person. And one night I was laying in my bed. This was again. I said, and I was talking to him, and he said, "You want to die like this? Apparently, you want to die like this. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You see what's happening." I'm like, "No, sir, I do not." He like, "That's what gonna happen." Like, it literally had me like freaking out in a sense of a form. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, and this in the middle of the night again, like 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm like, I don't want to go out like this, Lord. I'm like, please take it away. Please take the taste away. And I'm gonna be honest. When I went back a few days later and went to buy some stuff, it was disgusting. It was
Mm.
disgusting. And listen, and I threw that thing in the toilet. I flushed it down the toilet. But I said, now listen, I said, well, maybe I need to go get something from somebody else. Maybe he has some bad stuff. That's what we was again putting the cocaine on the weed.
Mhm.
And I didn't. I went and bought another one. And that one was nasty too. I wasted like almost $100. Like, and I'm like, wow. But let me tell you, by the grace of God, he took that thing. He did exactly what I asked him to do. And even though it was a process, but he did it. And he saved me. And he saved me even after he saved me. Two more friends. It happened to. I talking about people who I used to sit down at the table and we used to do this together.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So he let me see it before and he let me see it after. Like, this could have been you.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? You probably would have been with them.
Mm.
Like, yeah. And I'm gonna be honest, it's more things that I can go into that the Lord has saved me from, because once you transition and you saying that you want to make these changes, you gotta understand that this is when the enemy gonna come harder. This is when
Oh
the
yeah.
enemy really gonna come for you now, because now you trying to step out the world that he had you in. You trying to go from careless living to carefully living, to caring more about your life. Oh yeah, now he
Mm.
coming for you. Now all kind of things, because we don't see the obstacles, we don't see the challenges that we face when we in the world. But when we no longer, even though we're in the world, because we're living, we're human. But when we step into the spiritual realm, oh, he coming for you. He's
Mm.
coming for you, and he's gonna come harder. He's gonna bring people in front of you who's gonna bring back up them old habits, who gonna try you, who gonna do all these different things to see if you really are this new individual that the Lord have created you to be. Because
Mhm.
the one thing that the enemy don't want you to do is to know your purpose. The one thing the enemy don't want nobody to know is to know that they are somebody. The one thing that the enemy don't want nobody to know is that you have a purpose in your living. You have a gifting that the Lord has instilled
Mm,
inside you, whether you even know what it is as of today, but you have it and you must understand that. And this is for anybody out there. I don't care how many people you've lost. You must understand that only the Lord knows the day and the time or the hour when someone will leave here. It is nothing that you have any control over. You understand? Not unless you were the person that pulled that trigger, not unless you were the person that gave them the drugs or whatever it is that they did that made them lose their life. But understand that you still have a life to live. You understand that you must want to live it. Like I say, you want to
mhm,
go from careless living to being careful in your living, to being caring more about your life. Because some of us, we
mm.
don't care about our life. You understand? Even though, yeah, oh, I got one life to live, I'm going to live it out. Yes, I say that all the time. Live it out with no despite, but you want to live it rightfully and you want to live it righteously. And I don't care what you've been through. All anything from any mistake, any delay, any deference is all now stepping stones in order for you to elevate. But one thing I'm going to say, you have to want it.
Dude, man, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I can, you said some things right there, and I want to talk deeper into it, right? And I'm gonna share part of my story. Um, so when I started on this path, when the good Lord said, "Hey, I need you to look over there," I said, He showed me this slither of grass about yay big, right? I went, "What?" He goes, "That's your path. I need you to go over there, but you're gonna have to clear out all of this stuff, right? And as you're doing it, I need you to keep in mind, keep your eyes fixed on me.
Right.
Don't stray across the sides,
That's right.
right?" He
That's
goes,
right. Don't
"Because
look to the
the
left and
enemy
don't look
is
to the
over
right.
there."
That's
Yeah,
right.
but that's what he told me. He said the enemy is over there. He goes, and your gift is about to manifest itself. I didn't know. I didn't know. No one told me about gifts and things like that, right?
Wow.
No one told me, but I knew that I was supposed to follow the path, right? And he goes, and no matter what, I need you to listen to me.
That's right. And nobody told me neither. Nobody told
Yeah,
me neither. The Lord, the Holy Spirit led me and
yeah.
guided me. You understand? I didn't even know. I knew about God. I knew about Jesus. I didn't even know that they were the same person when I first started getting on my spiritual journey. I didn't know nothing about
Mm-hmm.
the Holy Spirit. I didn't know nothing. But what I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you is when he say, I will perfect that which concern you, oh, he mean
Mm-hmm.
it.
Oh,
He
look,
mean it.
I didn't know, right? And it's so crazy that when I tell people this, they sit back and go, "What?" I go, "Yeah, dude, I can't make this up. I cannot
For
make it up."
real. For
Just like you,
This did
right?
not me say
Like
that.
if I told people that the relationship that I built allowed me to have a direct conversation with God on a day-to-day basis, 24 hours a day, to hear his voice. And before I lost my son, I built a really good relationship with him, right? Listened to him, became obedient. He was my role model. He taught me how to be a man just by following certain rules, but modeling my heart behind what God had given the world. I knew I wanted that, right?
Yes.
Because I didn't have
Yes.
any positive role models. So I said, "God,
Yes.
look, I'm gonna have to use you as a role model." God said, "Okay, you sure?" I
Yes.
said, "Yeah, I need to. I need
Of
to."
course.
And so he began to do things that if I told you the depthness of it would blow your mind. But he gave me certain things: appreciation, gratitude, peace in my heart, and forgiveness. Right.
Yeah, he gave you the fruits of
And
the spirit.
yeah,
Yeah.
he gave me the
Yeah.
fruits, right? You know what I'm saying? And with those four things, I was able to build who well, a different version of who I was. I stopped a lot of things. I stopped cursing. There was no more drinking. There was,
Yeah. Yeah.
no more smoking weed. There was no running out the house and going to chase women or anything like that,
Yeah. Yes.
because he gave me my son. Now, mind you, there was another part missing. I didn't know how to be a father.
Wow.
I never knew how to be a father. God was teaching me how to be a man. I'm gonna tell you how good it was. I'm gonna tell you how good God was. God was teaching me how to be a man, but my son taught me how to be a father. Like, and it was crazy because it was like y'all two working together. And my son was just look at me, just start smiling, but like, Daddy, Daddy, and he would correct me on certain things. And I would look at him and go, hold on. I'm supposed to be one teaching you, but I need to pay attention, right?
Jesus.
Because God came to me, he said, and the child shall lead you.
Good Lord.
I said, huh?
My God.
So now I say that to say this, right? Because after my son passed away, I looked at God. I said, why would you hurt me like this? I was obedient. I've done everything you asked me to do, you know? And he kept saying, you don't understand. I go, no, you're right. I don't understand because you gave me this beautiful child to raise and everything. And I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do as his father. And as being a single father, I'm teaching them right from wrong. I'm teaching them to have a relationship with you. I'm teaching them all the things that I wish I would have known, but I'm now learning from you. I'm teaching these things to him. He goes, you don't understand. I said, you know what? You're right. I don't understand. I don't want to talk to you no more. And then 2 years later, he took my mother away from me. I said, see, that's the reason why I don't want to talk to you no more. Now I'm an orphan. I'm an orphan in the world. I said, and I thought about it for a minute. I said, hold on. Not only am I an orphan in the world, but you've managed to wipe out my whole bloodline and left me. You've taken all the males away from out of my family, from my father all the way down to my son, to my younger brother.
Jesus.
I'm the oldest and the last of my bloodline. And you've made it so to where I can't have any more kids. I said, so what? He goes, you don't understand. But I tell you what, when he set me along this path and told me I had to clear out all of this stuff in my darkest moments, every time I came across something, he would give me pre-warnings. He goes, you're about to enter to a stage of your life where I need you to be careful about the people. So I had just I began to discover this gift called grief, right? And it fascinated me. Everything fascinated me about it. And I knew I wanted to know more about it. And God said, your gift should make room for you, but be careful of those who smile in your face. Those will be the ones who stab you in the back.
Yes.
And so those were the ones that was dressed up in business suits.
Yes.
Those were the ones starting their nonprofits that I reached out to help. He goes, remember, when you turn your back, you're going to get stabbed. And I'm thinking to myself, because there was one young lady, and I was like, that's my type right there, right? And he goes, be careful. Remember what I told you. And sure enough, she was the first one to get me.
Wow.
But see, I paid attention, right? Because I said, oh, whoa. He goes, now do you see what I'm telling you? Do you see what I'm showing you in front of you? I go, yeah, it's just, he goes, you need to walk away. It's going to be hard because they're going to do something to you, but I need you to walk away. And this is during COVID. I'm in a community trying to build support groups because it's a virgin community that's never had these things in there before. I said, let's bring some support groups in here, mental health, suicide prevention, recovery. Let's do it all, right? Let me bring in some good people. It's a thought. And then I realized I was spending so much time helping them build theirs and watching them become successful that I neglected me. And God said, don't neglect your gift. Your gift is screaming for you. So I went to them. I said, look, I got y'all where y'all need to be. I need to go over here and work on what I need to. Ooh, you would have think I would have set somebody's house on fire.
Wow.
Girl, they came after me and dragged me through the mud so hard. Jesus. And it all started with that young lady that I thought was going to be somebody that I can relate to, right?
Wow.
Oh, no. She was the first one to drag me through the mud, telling me that I wasn't nothing. And this all because I said I needed to go and work on what I started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like
and I lost everything.
Yeah,
it was. But it was worth it, right? And
Yeah.
afterwards, right, God said, "Hey, remember back in the beginning of the journey that I put you on, and I told you not to go outside the lines." You go, yeah. He goes, "Look where you stand." And I realized I had strayed off the path. He goes,
Yeah.
"And that's the reason why I told you to stay on the path, because your enemy was waiting for you. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna pat you on your butt. I'm gonna get you back on the path. I need you to stay right here. Stay fixed on me. Stop looking side to side. We're going to discipline you. We're going to change your mind. We're going to change your heart. We're going to rebuild you."
Change your outlook. Yeah.
And he did. And he set me along this path. He goes, "Now, remember when I told you that your gift would make room for you?" I go, "Yeah. And your gift will put you around great kings and queens. Look around you."
Wow.
Girl, the people
Jesus.
that God surrounded me with will blow your mind.
I
Actors
know
and
that's right.
actresses and R&B artists and, you know what I'm saying, movie stars and,
Jesus.
you know, like successful individuals. And
Wow.
he told me, he goes,
This is so amazing. Lord Jesus.
"I'm going to put you in that room over there." He goes, "But I want you to do something." He goes, "I want you to keep your mouth shut and just look around you." And I went in and I kept my mouth shut. And he had put me, what he had done, he put me around millionaires and billionaires, very successful people. Now, mind you, Allure, we come from the same background. I come from the gutter. You dig what I'm saying? I come from hustling and fighting and violence,
Yeah. Yeah.
being an inmate, being homeless,
Yeah. Yeah.
being an alcoholic.
Jesus.
And here I am around these successful individuals. And one of them came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to learn some stuff?" I go, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Good, because I'm told to teach you. You want to know how to make
Wow.
$1 million?" Yeah. And this is what he told me. He goes, "You want to know how to make $1 million?" I go, "Man, first I got to learn how to make $1,000." He goes, "Okay, let's put it together." And the rest is history.
Wow.
The rest is
Jesus.
history. I'm
Man,
gonna
this is
I'm
hey,
say this because,
that's amazing right there now. Let me tell you
yeah,
something. You might need to write you a book because
I
this is
did.
so amazing.
I got 2 books.
Jesus.
I got 4 more
Oh
coming out.
wow. Okay.
Woo,
All right. Because I'm getting ready
woo,
to see. Because look here,
woo,
boy. Somebody
woo. Girl,
want to
look, you
know
better
about
stop
this.
it.
This is
You
so
better
amazing.
stop it. You better stop it, right? But
Gee.
let me share a little secret with you, right? You know what I'm saying? Something that I just started sharing with people this year, right? So I talk about all of those things because I want people to understand that anything is possible,
That's
right? Through
right.
your story, through our stories, through the conversations that we have. Up until a year ago, I was homeless.
Wow.
So for 6 years, well, I've been homeless for 8 years after my mom passed away. And for 6 years, I've been following this path. Never knew where it was going to lead me. I've lost friends along the way, bounced around from place to place, never really understood why, right? But I never really paid attention to it neither until a friend of mine came to me. He goes, "Tony, let me help you get into a place, man." I go, "Huh?" He goes, "I don't know um, what it's going to take to get you where you need to be." He goes, "But you need to get into a place." And it dawned on me. I've been so focused on the journey, the process, that I never thought twice about being homeless because I was provided for, I was protected, I was guided, I was disciplined and redirected.
He
You
give you
understand what I'm
manna
saying?
every day. He give you manna every day. Lord
Yeah. And
Jesus.
so he fed me and clothed me and kept shelter over my head, but also kept me focused on the gift that he's given me and the direction that he wanted to take me in because I surrendered to it. You understand what I'm saying? I
Yes.
surrendered to it alone. And what he gave me back in return, he gave me a friend that spoke life into me and helped me get into my own place. And like I said, for like the last 8 years, I was just homeless, but I managed to travel the world. I managed to start two companies. I managed to write two books. Well, actually now 6 books. Podcasting, open up an office space, do support groups, do guest speaking, write programs, start a magazine, host a conference, and make some beautiful connections with people. And I did it while I was homeless.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
So something similar for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yours is a little deeper than mine, and the reason being because I've not been I've not been homeless, but I've been in low places, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
we had to go
Yeah.
and live in a real ghetto area, where we were stuck in a 2-bedroom apartment where um basically me and my sons would have to share a room. Me and my mom in another room. So on another occasion in the house, my mom couldn't get up the steps. She had to sleep on the couch. You know what I mean? Because I had already became my mom full-time caregiver at that time.
Mhm.
But I know what it feel like to be close to nothing. You know what I mean? Like I said, by the grace of God, never fully homeless. You know what I mean? But I salute you. I salute you in everything that you've been through and how you come out to be the man of God that you are of this day. And I
Don't
bless the
salute
Lord
me.
for you because you got a serious testimony that so many men and women need to hear because the this is amazing because even in your homelessness, you still were walking with purpose on purpose. You weren't
Yeah.
even focusing on the homelessness. You was focusing on get accomplishing the mission. Like, my God, my
But
God.
see, I look what it did. It humbled me, right? And I tell people, look, I'm not an inspiration to anyone. It's nothing to be, I appreciate that, but you don't have to clap for me. You don't have to give me kudos or anything like that because it had nothing to do with me.
Right. All the glory goes to God at the end
There
of the
you
day.
go. And it and,
Hmm.
and God deserves all of the glory and all of the
Yes.
things for that because he did not have to give someone like me an opportunity. I just chose to walk the path because I had nothing else left.
Right.
I had no more fight in me. I had no
Right.
more strength. I had no more wind in me. And I had tried everything and nothing worked.
Right.
And
And
I just
sometimes,
decided to
but
say,
sometimes we got to get that low. Sometimes he got to
right,
get us
right,
that low in order to get us where he want us to go at.
right.
So
But now I want to talk a little bit more about, what was your deciding factor to start your company?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I told you, when the Lord gave me this, He gave it to me throughout that same time frame when I was living in that country area. That same time frame when I was going through all that, I would just be writing. I would just be writing and writing quotes, writing messages. I started listening to certain people like Pastor Stephen Furnick, um, and Bishop Berrien. Like I don't even know how I found these
Mhm.
people honestly, but I just started getting more into the word and listening to messages and sermons and like I said, I started writing, never realizing that I was creating a whole brand. It wasn't.
Mhm.
I started. This was so this is since 2015 up until around about 2017, 2018, before the Lord moved me again. And when he moved me again, like I said, it was in a whole nother small apartment. But I still didn't know. I still didn't have a clue, and when I started talking and getting in the spiritual realm, he was letting me know I was pregnant with purpose. And then what I did was I started creating a YouTube channel, and I never even knew how to do that. Most I did is go on YouTube and listen to music. But again, the
Mhm.
Holy Spirit led me. The next thing I knew, He was leading me to the Library of Congress. You know what I mean? To put my branding in there, to put my books in there, to make sure that I had a copyright. You understand? And no one could be able to take it. Never knew anything about that. You know what I mean? The next thing I knew, He was telling me like, listen, this is also gonna be a book. This is gonna be you telling your story. You understand? But he did let me know not to put anything too explicit in there, even though I tell the story in full, but I leave out like, using vulgar language, stuff like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um he then the next thing I know, he started giving me the idea ideas to put it on shirts, to put it on earrings, to put it on cups, to put it on mugs. And I'm gonna be honest now, I'm still building it out. I literally have had this out for about 5 years now. But of course, if anybody knows, when you build something from the ground up, it takes much time to make its presence known and to make it so I'm still building it out. I'm still trying to bring awareness to my brand, and like I say, even people like you who allow me to grace their platform, I highly appreciate it because it allows me to do so. But with that being said, the Lord already just told me, just do the work and he'll do the rest. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't go back.
Mm-hmm.
I get it out. Don't get me wrong. I have monetized and selling some of my products in Attire, but I haven't monetized a whole lot. And honestly, I've given away more stuff than what I've allowed someone to purchase just to even be able to get it out. I've given away so much, but he let me know when I do that, like, don't worry about it. I take care of you. You know that you are well taken care of. Don't worry about
Mm-hmm.
it. And I'm gonna be honest, in some people's eyes, they look at that as being because I listen to a lot of different leadership coaching and stuff like that, and they're like people who do the work of the Lord, like, they remain in a poverty mindset, but that's not what it is. Because when you know that the Lord is your true and the ultimate resource, everybody know He's Jehovah Jireh, He is our provider. But when you know beyond that, that He's the ultimate, unlimited source, resource that you need, you wouldn't even worry about those things at that point in time. I'm gonna be honest. I was until one of my good brothers in Christ, Minister Britton, and he's a ex con who's now going from state property. You understand, to the sanctuary. You understand, he's a very powerful man, and I would love to connect you with him, so you could talk with him sometimes if you would like. But
Yeah.
he's located in Georgetown, South Carolina, so he's an hour and a half away from me. But and me and him connected in the grocery store 2 years ago. But we've been friends ever since, and we've been building and helping. But when I started doing this, and I'm like, man, Dwayne, I'm not making no money. Like I'm not seeing this thing moving, man. Yeah, people have write me. Yeah, people telling me that the message has blessed them. As far as them looking at my YouTube channel or listening to my podcast, they're like, yeah, thank you for the message. But I'm like, I'm not making no money. Like, I'm putting more out than I'm getting in. And he like, if you know God is your ultimate resource, what are you talking about? Like, he put me in a headlock immediately.
Mm-hmm.
He put me in a headlock immediately. And I'm thankful that he did that, because since then I've been way more vibrant. I've been way more confident in everything that I do, whether I see it right now or not. But I also know that it's beyond me, because not only am I sowing seeds in the good ground, because this is all for his glory, but I'm also leaving a legacy as I lead people to the Lord. So even if I
Mm-hmm.
don't see the residual, even if I don't see it, my children or my children's children, they will. And of course, we know that the Lord say any wise person will be, when you want to leave inheritance for your children's children, you are wise. You are wise, because some of us, we don't even think beyond those levels. You understand? We just
Exactly.
think about day to day living. But and I'm gonna be honest, and for a long time, that's how I was living as well. And now the Lord has not only allowed and redeemed time for me. You know what I mean? Some people don't even believe that I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 last year. They don't even believe I'm 40. And I'm like, well, thank you. Because I asked the Lord to let me look youthful, to let me remain youthful as I continue to grow. You know what I mean? But when I look at it in a whole and in the spiritual hindsight, He basically redeemed my time back for me. He's
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to pick up the pieces just from where it is. Because, of course, I can't go back in time, but he's allowing me to use those same old things from then as stepping stones, like I said again, in order to elevate and to help somebody else so that they don't make the
Mm-hmm.
same mistakes. Because some mistakes that we make, like they tell you, trouble easy to get into, but it's hard to get out. But some
Yeah.
mistakes that we make them deliberately. When a mistake is just what it says that it is. It's something that happens unknowingly, not deliberately. So my goal is to let people know about everything that I've been through, and let them know that if you don't drop your anchor and dock with the Lord, you're going to continue to be striving. You're going to continue to be worn out, tired. Because you have so much people that even young people, they look so old in their age. You understand? They stressed out. They out here just trying to
Mm-hmm.
get by and do whatever it
Well,
takes, living the street life, doing this, doing that. But I let them know, man, listen, because like I say, my brand, I come from a street aspect by the theological platform, but I let people know you got to drop that ink and dog with the Lord to know that the struggle is your strength. You have to get G'd up with him in order to
mm,
gain the confidence that you need in order to proceed and succeed on yet in this battlefield of life.
mm,
But no, you're really not. You're not really you're not even that you Lord. You need the armor of the Lord. You want to allow that spirit man to rise over that fleshly man at all costs, because that fleshly man, his goal is to set you up for failure. His goal is to send you in that grave early if he can. You understand? And that's not for everybody, of course, by all means. Let me say that, because some people, it wasn't their choice. You know, some people might have had health issues. Some people might have been caught up in a crossfire or a line of fire, whatever it is that it is. Some people did not have a choice. But if you are
mm,
still here today and the Lord allowed you to see yet another day, do you know that that is the biggest blessing that you received thus far on this day? It don't matter what you don't have, but what you do have is a new chance. You understand? You have a new day, a new opportunity to make a change. And that's really what it's about for me. You know what I mean? I want people to know, like, listen, you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there. And even if you lost, I just lost my mama. This will make 3 years for me. You understand? Was the hardest thing that I ever been through. And the bad the I don't even want to say the bad part. The best part about it, the Lord had already got me prepared for it. He had already
mm,
showed me in my dreams I was going to be at this funeral and I was going to be leading down this line. He showed me that I was going to be up giving this eulogy. He showed me all of these things, but every time it got time for me to go and look in the casket, I woke up. I woke up. I didn't want to see it. But when I went back and I look at it, because I didn't know my mom was going to die, because my mom had a UTI and then she caught COVID when I took her to the hospital. Somebody in, they didn't have the hospital protected properly. And after that happened, my mom wasn't able to come home. We weren't able to visit her. He shut my car down. He
mm,
allowed me and my children to have over 3 months of time to prepare ourselves to know how it would be without her in the home
mm.
before he allowed her to transition. And like I said, when she transitioned, I did everything that was in that dream. I didn't lead the line, though. I was the third in the line because I was a little nervous. I didn't want to sparrow off, but I did. I led the eulogy. Um, Before the pastor came up and preached, and I gave
Mhm.
my mom a very good outgoing. And I'm gonna be honest, and guess why? Remember I had already lost everything, so that means I had no life insurance, no nothing. So but guess what? I didn't even have to worry about nothing. I didn't have to call nobody and say, hey, I need this. People were calling me. The Lord already had everything set up. You understand? Where people came from the left, the right, let me tell you something, all around, and bringing money. What do you need? What do you need? You understand what I'm saying? And at that time, he only allowed me to release it to a few people, but within 4 or 5 people, I was able to get all the money together to bury my mom because I didn't have, you know what I mean? But he allowed me. I didn't have to worry about one thing. And my mom's eulogy was from underdog to warrior, from underdog to warrior. You understand? And my mom
Mhm.
was too an underdog. I was supposed to be a clone of my mom. You know what I mean? I had three sons. I had three sons. Well, first I had two sons who were exactly 8 years apart, like me and my sister. It's only me and my sister. My mom only have two girls. But then the Lord gave me my third son where he broke the cycle. And how he even broke the cycle even more because my third son ended up having a speech delay and got
Mhm.
diagnosed with mild autism. Now I'm like, Lord have mercy. But the crazy part about that is, throughout those years when I had when I first cut that first charge, that trafficking charge, I went into the nursing field. I started the medical field. Excuse me. I started working with disabled and elderly folks. I started working with mentally challenged folk in group homes, different things. So he had already had me ready for that as well. But I wasn't never thinking that I would have a child that would be like that. But also he allowed the Holy Spirit to come more inside of me so that I could be able to hear him beyond the words. And
Mm,
that's another book that he has me working on now, to be able to bring motivation and inspiration, and enlightenment to parents who have children of special needs, who are autistic, to let them know that it's not a burden, it's truly a blessing when they
mm,
really look at it. So, and I see all that to see this, you know, I too surrendered. I too surrendered unto the Lord. I too gave it all to him. I have even dedicated my children back to him. You understand, everything that I have now in my possession, it is his. When I lay down and I go to sleep at night, I let him know I thank him. I thank I thank Father God, I thank Lord Jesus, I thank the Holy Spirit, but I also thank all my guardian angels, because I have so many at this point in time. And I'm not just talking about just blood. I'm talking about even the people who were just my friends, childhood friends, friends are coming along the way, whatever it is. But I thank all of them. And I let the Holy Spirit know that this is your house. This is your house. You understand? We are just vessels living inside of it, but this is your house. You
mm.
understand? Covered in your blood from the rooftop to the foundation, from the front yard to the backyard, even around the vehicles, even around the laundry room. I cover all, even the washer and dryer. You understand? Because really, this is important. Because let me tell you something about the enemy. Also, as you transition and you get on that walk, he'll make it so that you cannot prosper, that he
Mhm.
will continue to mess with your finances. All kind of things will start breaking around you. You understand, where you're gonna have to disperse that money back out as quick as you got it in. You understand that this is when you got to even release those things over unto the Lord and ask him to cover it and take hold of it and shield it, and understand that this is a process, like it literally is. And let me tell you, sometimes I'm looking like, dang, this is harder than what it was just living fully, Lord. Like, this is really hard. And I just want people to know it ain't easy. But he never said it would be easy. But one thing I can tell you, once you start getting more spiritually inclined and aligned, oh, he give you that peace. He give you that peace
Mhm.
that surpasses all understanding.
Mhm.
You wouldn't even worry about things as much as you would have before when they do go wrong, because you already know, like, okay, Lord, well, that it broke, but Lord, I'm gonna trust you. I know you're gonna help me. I know you're gonna help me to get it done. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm not gonna spiral off. Like, yeah, it's gonna be more calming in your life. You understand?
Mhm.
You will be more secure in everything that you have going on, despite if something does go wrong. And this is important for people to know, because understand, things will go wrong. Things will go wrong. He never said it would be easy. But what he
Yeah.
did say is he will be with you no matter what. He'll never leave nor forsake you. For he knew you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. And I say this all the time to everybody. The Lord, we are living our life out backwards in his eyes. He already know what we're gonna do. He already know everything we're gonna go through. You understand? Like, once we can get that, understand? Oh Lord, it'll be smooth sailing from me. And I
You know.
and I advise people that when you set sail in the sea of life, again, you got to drop that anchor and dock with them.
Yeah. I've been on a mission, right? I've been on a mission since I started this and realized how much momentum I could catch, right? I tell everybody, I said, my goal now is to outwork what God had in store for me. It's to outwork it, right?
Right,
I want,
right,
when my gift is used up into this world, and I stand in front of my Father to be judged,
right.
and have my life looked upon. I want God to look at me and go, dude, I had you here, and you
Right,
far
right.
exceeded anything that I ever imagined.
Yes,
I had to write it out as you were doing it. Like, we
yes.
had all of this, but I had to write the rest of it out as you were living. I had to live it with you, right? And
That's
so
right.
that's my goal. That's my goal in life now, is to just to outwork the chart. And and I'm gonna tell you right now, your story is so impressive. Such
Wow.
resilience, such bravery, such amazing wisdom that you've obtained in your journey. is just
I'm gonna be
phenomenal,
honest. I
and I
gotta
and
do
I
just
want
like
that.
what you do.
But I want
Listen,
that for people. See
I
what you
cut you
got
off.
right there. No, no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
I didn't
cool.
mean to cut you off, but I said I gotta do what you did. I gotta give it back to him. I
Yeah,
can't, I can't even accept it. It ain't me. It's the Holy Spirit inside me. It's the grace that He's
exactly.
poured upon my life. The oil. You understand the oil
Hmm.
that He's allowed me to be able to sup in.
Exactly. And you know, and
And Chantel told
like,
me to tell you hi.
oh, well, tell Chantel hi. But you know, that's what you carry right there is what I want for people out there in the world. I
Right.
want people that's, you know, that listen to this conversation and go, I want some of that right there, that faith, that
Yes.
strength. Because my biggest thing with people, and I see a lot of hurt people on a day-to-day
Yes.
basis, and I tell them, look, if you like what someone has and you see the strength in them, maybe you're not strong enough right now. Hold on to some of that,
Right.
and hold on to it until you're able to develop your own, right? But hold on to it because there's a deep embedded strength that comes along with that. And you know, and so I want people to experience that. Now I got two more questions for you. Two more. One, how can people find you?
So you can find me on all social platforms underneath Allure Unique or Real Struggle Strength. I do have also have e-learning courses for beginners on a platform called the Great Discovery slash Allure, where it helps and teaches people how to step into their gifting and how to step into their relationship with the Lord. And it's no judgment. It's no judgment because we don't judge, or I don't judge from religion or any kind of points of that matter. But I do advise everybody when they do start going in this journey, just gain a personal relationship with the Lord. And you can do that. COVID showed us that you can do that at home. You can do that at home, even if you don't have a church home at that time. But if that's something that if he puts that on your heart, and eventually he'll get you to step out and go wherever it is that he would have you to go, whether that is in the church or not. But I just want people to know that because it all starts with you, and it all starts within you. But if you want to learn, I do have those e-learning courses on that platform called Great Discovery. And also, if you want to contact me directly, I'm at Allure Unique Styles, and that's Styles with a Z at the end at gmail.com. And I'm willing to disperse information. I'm willing to give to help and to pour into other souls at any cost. You know what I mean? And even though some of my courses, um, they're very inexpensive, I want to say that. Like the 6-step strategy called the Game of Life, that's God's plan for our life. I have another 6-step strategy called Living to Level Up. And of course, if everybody knows, living is all about sin in the Bible, but I used it for the goodness of it because we live in a sinful world. So we must
Mhm.
understand that we might have to be permeated, we might have to be infused, we might have to go through the fire in order to be able to rise up properly. You know what I mean? In order for us to be able to step out and rise, to soar, to mount up with wings just like that eagle and rise again. But on all social platforms, Allure Unique or Real Struggle Strength is what I do have that just is strictly for my brand. Allure Unique is basically my personal page, but I do put I do put my motivation on there as well. But yeah, I don't mind if anybody wants to connect with me on either end. And also, my motivational music is also on all music streaming platforms under Allure Unique as well,
Mhm.
or RSS motivation. And I just want y'all to know that this is this is definitely not for the weak. But if you want to have longevity in your life, and if you are tired of living your life the way that you've already been living it by far as of up to now, this is what's necessary. This is what's necessary. It's necessary that you drop your anchor and talk with the Lord. It's necessary that you get G'd out with Him. So,
Most definitely. Most definitely. Now I got one more question for you. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
wow. Oh, man. I don't know. Maybe to have the power to immediately touch a soul and heal it. Of course, we can pray. We can pray and pray for God to do it. But if He had gave me that instant power that I'm able to just lay hands and instantly heal, that would be a superpower that I would want. And even to
Okay.
change mindsets.
Right. I like that. I like that. So now, if you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
I would let you know that despite anything that you've been through, that you've encountered, or even maybe that you are going through right now, I want you to know that you are an overcomer. You can overcome any obstacle. I want you to know that you are somebody in the eyes of the Lord. I want you to know that when He says to come as you are, that is way beyond clothing or exterior. It's all about your internal. And I want you to know that the Lord looks at your heart. And if your heart is postured in the right way, and if you have a heart where you do not wish malicious intent or harm on others, even if they've done you wrong, I want you to know that you still have a chance. I want you to know that you still have an opportunity to give your life over to the Lord. I want you to know at all costs that you don't have to worry about where you are in your journey. He says, come as you are.
Love that. I love that. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Guys, where can people find your book? You didn't mention that. Where can people find your books?
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot that one.
To
But
see,
thank you
you
for
can't be
pointing
skipping that. Luckily, I was like, you know what? We forgot something. I'm going to have to call
yeah,
you
yeah.
out.
So
Okay.
the book is also on all reading platforms. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Ingram Spark, just to name a few. And that is under Real Struggle Strength. You would have to put the full word in Real Struggle Strength Part One, or Real Struggle Strength Part Two. So yeah, and then they'll come up. Like I said, the subtitles are on the actual cover. So like I said, Part One is Headed to the Streets through Trials and Tribulations. Part Two is From Trenches to Trendsetter to Doctor Naked.
I love that. I love that. Guys, go. If you've been enjoying the conversation, I see a lot of you guys have been on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn,
Wow, thank
you know,
y'all.
too. I see you guys up there. Thank you guys for keep allowing
Yes,
me to keep bringing these conversations with you. But yeah,
yes,
go and support her. Go find her YouTube channel. Go get that book because if you're liking what she's saying, she got so much more. We didn't go too far into it because I want you guys to go and saying get the real meat and potatoes from what she put down on pen and paper. Okay.
yes.
And so again, Allure, thank you for this honor and this
Thank
privilege to
you.
have this conversation with you.
Thank
Such
you.
an amazing individual,
Jesus.
and to bless me with your story. Such an honor and a privilege. Thank you for that. And for everyone else, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. Head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, maybe these conversations aren't for you. Maybe you know someone who could benefit from the conversations that we have. Do me a
Right.
favor, share this along with them, right? And let them know that we have something for everyone. And again, we keep bringing people up here that is making a difference in the world, changing people's hearts, one heartbeat at a time. So
Yeah.
just remember, you're worth it, and we want you to be healthy. So, guys, thank you. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Have an amazing day. Peace.
God bless y'all.